Welcome to today's scary story session. These stories are not for the faint of heart, so be prepared to be scared out of your wits. If you enjoy being scared and want to hear more stories like these, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a scary story session. Let's get started. My friends and I were thrilled to be going on our annual camping trip in the woods. We had packed our gear and were ready for a weekend of relaxation and fun. But as the sun began to set on the first night, we noticed something strange lurking at the edge of the campsite, a dark, shadowy figure that seemed to be watching us. At first, we thought it was just our imaginations playing tricks on us. But as the night wore on, the figure became more and more menacing, moving closer and closer to our tents. We tried to ignore it, but it was impossible to shake the feeling that we were being watched. As the hours passed, the tension between us grew. We argued about what to do, with some of us wanting to leave immediately and others insisting that we stay and confront the shadow figure. Our nerves were frayed, and we started to turn on each other, bickering and sniping over every little thing. Every time we caught a glimpse of the figure, our hearts would race and our palms would sweat. We tried to shine our flashlights on it, but it always seemed to slip away into the shadows. It was like it was toying with us, playing a sick game of cat and mouse. But then, things took a darker turn. One of my friends was attacked by the figure, clawed it by its long, sharp fingers. We all screamed in terror as the figure disappeared back into the darkness, leaving my friend bleeding and shaken. That's when we realized that we were dealing with something much more sinister than we had originally thought. We gathered in one tent, trying to come up with a plan. We were scared, but we knew we had to do something. As the night wore on, the figure grew bolder. It started to move closer and closer to our campsite, its shadowy form looming over us like a nightmare. We built a fire, hoping that the light would keep it at bay, but it wasn't enough. The figure kept creeping forward, like a predator stalking its prey. We were at our wits' end, feeling helpless and afraid. But then, something strange happened. We noticed that the figure seemed to be afraid of the light. Whenever we turned on our flashlights or added more wood to the fire, it would back away, retreating into the darkness. We realized that we had to use this to our advantage. We worked together, building a massive bonfire that surrounded our campsite with as much light as possible. It was like a fortress, protecting us from the darkness. For a while, it worked. The figure stayed away, unable to penetrate our protective barrier. But then, just when we thought we were safe, the figure revealed its true form. It wasn't just a shadow, it was a demon, with glowing red eyes and a grotesque, twisted body. It lunged at us with such force that we were thrown back, screaming in terror. We fought back with everything we had, using sticks and rocks to fend off the demon. We were battered and bruised, but we refused to give up. And then, just when we thought all was lost, we saw something incredible. The demon started to retreat, its form melting away into the shadows. We had won. We sat around the dying embers of the bonfire, panting and exhausted. We knew that we had been through something truly terrifying, something that would stay with us for the rest of our lives. But we also knew that we had emerged stronger, more bonded than ever before. We were survivors, and we had faced our fears head-on. I thought I had found the perfect apartment, affordable rent, close to work, and in a great location. But soon after moving in, I noticed something strange. A dark, shadowy figure seemed to be following me wherever I went. It lurked in the corners of my room, watching me with unfeeling eyes. At first, I tried to ignore it, thinking it was just my imagination. But the more I tried to push it away, the more menacing the figure became. At night, I would lie in bed and feel its presence looming over me. It would whisper terrible things in my ear, things that made my blood run cold. And in the morning, when I woke up, I would find that objects in my apartment had been moved or rearranged, as if the shadow figure had been there. I tried to talk to my neighbors about it, but they all seemed to dismiss my concerns. One even told me that the previous tenant had complained about the same thing, but nobody had been able to explain it. Desperate to find answers, I started researching the history of the apartment complex. That's when I stumbled upon a dark secret. The building had been constructed on the site of an old asylum. The asylum had been shut down years ago, after a series of gruesome murders had taken place there. But the building had been left standing, and now it seemed like the spirits of the dead were haunting its halls. As I delved deeper into the history of the asylum, the shadow figure grew more menacing. It invaded my dreams, whispering terrible things and urging me to do unspeakable acts. I felt like I was losing my mind. Then, one night, as I lay in bed, the shadow figure appeared to me in its full form. It towered over me, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. The figure reached out to touch me, and I felt a searing pain shoot through my body. When I woke up, I was lying on the floor, covered in sweat. But the shadow figure was still there, looming over me. It had taken over my life, and I knew that I was powerless to stop it. As the days passed, the shadow figure grew more and more menacing. It started to follow me outside of my apartment, watching me with cold, unfeeling eyes. I knew that I had to leave, but I was trapped. The figure was everywhere, and I couldn't escape it. One day, as I was walking down the street, I saw the figure standing at the end of the block, watching me. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The figure started to move closer and closer, until it was right in front of me. And then, everything went dark. I woke up in the hospital, surrounded by concerned doctors and nurses. They told me that I had been found unconscious on the street, with no memory of what had happened. But I knew the truth. The shadow figure had finally claimed me, dragging me down into the depths of madness and despair. I will never forget the terror that I felt in those final moments, as the shadow figure claimed me as its own. And I know that it will continue to haunt me for the rest of my life, a constant reminder of the horrors that lurk in the shadows. I had always been a rational and logical person, but lately, something had been happening to me that I couldn't explain. I was having nightmares, every single night, about a shadowy figure that seemed to be following me everywhere I went. In the dreams, it would stand in the corner of my room, watching me with unfeeling eyes. I felt like I was losing my mind, and I didn't know how to make it stop. At first, I tried to ignore the dreams, thinking that they were just a result of stress or anxiety. But as time went on, they became more intense and frequent, and I found myself questioning my own sanity. I started seeing the figure's face in everything, in the shadows on the street, in the reflection of my office window, even in the faces of strangers. I tried to talk to my husband, Jack, about it, but he didn't seem to understand. He brushed it off as just a bad dream and told me that I was worrying too much. But I knew that there was something more to it. As the days passed, I became increasingly desperate to figure out what was going on. I started researching the history of our home, hoping to find some explanation for what I was experiencing. But all I found were stories of happy families living there before us, with no hint of any kind of dark presence. One night, I woke up to find the figure standing at the foot of my bed. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and I could feel its breath on my face. I screamed, waking Jack, but when he turned on the light, the figure was gone. After that, the figure started appearing to me during the day as well. It would follow me wherever I went, watching me with cold, unfeeling eyes. I tried to tell my friends and family, but they all thought I was imagining things. Then, one day, while walking to work, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I turned around to see the figure standing behind me, its eyes glowing with an unearthly light. It reached up to touch me, and I felt a searing pain shoot through my body. I collapsed to the ground, and when I looked up, the figure was gone. I knew then that it had won. It had taken everything from me, my sanity, my life, and my soul. And now, I could feel its presence around me, haunting me for all eternity. I used to love the quiet of the night. The way the stars sparkled in the sky and the moonlight bathed everything in a soft glow. But that was before I started seeing the shadow figure outside my window. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But every night, without fail, the figure would appear in the darkness. A tall, dark shape with glowing red eyes that seemed to stare straight through me. Its presence was suffocating, and the whispers in the night made my blood run cold. I tried to tell my family and friends about it, but they dismissed it as a silly childhood fear. They told me it was just my mind playing tricks on me and that there was nothing to be afraid of. But as the nights went on, the figure started to move closer to my window. It would tap on the glass, leaving behind smudges in the shape of fingers. And every time I woke up, I found myself covered in a cold sweat. I knew that this was no mere figment of my imagination. This was a demonic spirit that had set its sights on me. I could feel its malevolent energy surrounding me, pulling me down into a dark abyss. I tried everything I could think of to rid myself of the spirit, but nothing seemed to work. Every time I thought I had driven it away, it would return with a vengeance. The more I fought, the more powerful it seemed to become. I was trapped in a never-ending cycle of fear and despair. I knew that I had to do something to break free from its grip, but I didn't know what. One night, as the figure loomed closer than ever before, I realized that I had one weapon that the demon couldn't overcome: faith. I closed my eyes and prayed with all my heart, calling on the power of the divine to protect me. And in that moment, something shifted. The demonic spirit let out a blood-curdling scream, and a blinding light filled the room. When I opened my eyes, the figure was gone, banished back to whatever hellish realm it had come from. I thought I was free, but I soon realized that the demon had left a mark on my soul. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still see its malevolent energy surrounding me, waiting for another chance to take hold. I knew that my fight against this demonic spirit was far from over. And I also knew that I could never let my guard down again, lest it return to haunt me once more.